Hello, fourth graders. Today we are going to be talking about comparing fractions again. We actually talked about this in a video before spring break, but you used fraction strips and number lines to compare fractions. So today we're actually going to learn about a way that's a little simpler than that. Let me show you what I mean. First of all, let's look at these number lines. We're going to use them to compare the fractions 4/5 and 7/10. So right here we have 4/5 and right here we have 7/10. Since both of these number lines go up to 1, we can see that 4/5 is further down the number line than 7/10 is. So 4/5 is greater than 7/10. Okay, now I had some of you asking me, Miss Vanderstel, is there a simpler way to do this? Because I don't really want to be drawing out a number line every time I need to compare some fractions. I'm so glad you asked. There actually is an easier way. I'm sorry, not easier, simpler. If you look back at this, should look somewhat familiar to you. I hope it does. We did this before spring break. You remember that we can compare fractions pretty simply when we look at if they have the same numerator or if they have the same denominator. When two fractions have the same denominator, that means they have common denominators. Common denominators just means they have the same denominator. So remember, when they have the same denominator, we can just compare those top numbers. 3 is bigger than 2, so 3/6 is bigger than 2/6. So let's look at another example where we'll turn these into having common denominators. Let me show you what I mean. We have 3/4 here, so 1, 2, 3/4, and we're comparing it to 5/6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, you can automatically see, now that we've drawn this out, that 5/6 is bigger than 3/4. However, let's split them both into 12ths. If I want to make this one transfer down onto this 12ths bar here, I would color in all the way up to that line, because then it matches up. So then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 12. And then if I wanted to color in the blue, it would have gone all the way up to right there. In blue, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 12ths. And we know that 10 12ths is going to be bigger than 9 12ths, just like 3/4 is smaller than our 5/6. 10 12ths and 5/6 are equivalent fractions, and then 9 12ths and 3/4 are equivalent fractions. Okay? All right, now that might be a little bit confusing to you, but let me show you up here how we could have done that. If we had wanted common denominators, if we had wanted the same denominator to make it simpler for us to compare these, we could make them both actually have this denominator of 10. This one could just be 7/10. And then to turn this one into tenths, how would we do that? What would be up here? What would we put up here? Well, let's think back to what we learned earlier this week. If I know that I need 4/5 to equal something over 10, I'm going to ask myself, what do I multiply by 5 to get 10? Oh, I do 5 times 2 to get 10. So I do the same thing up here. 4 times 2 gives me 8. So 8/10 is bigger than 7/10. So in this lesson, all you are doing is trying to make the fractions that you're comparing have common denominators. You want them to have the same denominator so that you can more simply compare them. Okay, so I'm going to give us some space to work. That's why I'm putting this here. And we're going to compare each of these fractions. Don't let them intimidate you. It's really a lot simpler than it looks. So if we have 3/4 and 7/12, I want them to have the same denominator so that I can compare them more simply. Well, why don't I just make them both have 12 as their denominator. 7/12 is already in that form. It already has 12 as its denominator. But how can I turn 3/4 into something with 12 as its denominator? Well, 3/4, and I want to turn it into something over 12. I can do 4 times 3, and that's going to give me 12, and then I do the same thing at the top. 3 times 3 is going to give me 9. 9 over 12. Then I can definitely tell that 9/12 is more than 7/12. So that means 3/4 is more than 7/12. All right, let's do the same thing here. I want them to have the same denominator. Now I could try to have them both have 12 as the denominator. Let's see if that would work for us like it worked so nicely over here. If I have 7/12 and I want to turn 3/5 into something over 12. Okay, I want to turn 3/5 into something over 12. Ooh, I don't know how well that's going to work because I can't do 5 times something and give me 12. That's not going to work for me. So scratch that. I'm going to need to do something different. I'm going to need to do something different for this one because 12 isn't going to work as my denominator. What if I turn them both into a really big denominator? The really big denominator that I could try is I could try to do 5 times 12. I'll show you why in a second. You might know 5 times 12 off the top of your head, but I'm still going to just do my multiplication to make sure I'm sure. 5 times 12 is 60. What if I try both of these with something over 60? How might I do that? Well, let me think. I had 3/5, and I want to turn it into something over 60. Something over 60. Oh, okay, well, I know that I do 5 times 12 to get 60. So then I just need to do 3 times something to get my numerator, what that blank is. Oh, well, it's going to be 12 because I always multiply by the same thing on the top and bottom. So let me do 3 times 12 really quick, unless you know it off the top of your head. 3 times 12 is 36. So 3/5 is the same thing as 36 over 60. If you're confused how I got that, I want you to rewind and watch what I did again. Okay, now I need to figure out what 7 over 12 is, some number over 60. I need to make these equal. Well, let's do the same thing we did over here. 7 over 12 equals something over 60. Well, what did I multiply 12 by to get 60? I multiplied it by 5. 12 times 5 gives me 60. 7 times 5 gives me 35. Oh my goodness, look how close those two fractions are. I have 36 over 60 and I have 35 over 60. This would have been really challenging to draw out and figure out which one was larger, but because we gave them common denominators, we can see that 36 is bigger than 35, so 3/5 is bigger than 7/12. All right, so you kind of have learned 2 different methods. There's 2 different ways to do it. You could do this problem like you did this one over here. Remember, for this one over here, we gave them both 12 as the bottom. They both had 12. So what if over here we made them both have 10? That seems like a simpler way to do it. All you're doing is making sure that the denominator is the same so that you can compare them. So if I was going to keep this one as 6/10, and I was going to come up with some fraction that's equal to 3/5 that's over 10, something over 10, all I have to do is say, okay, 3/5 equals something over 10. What might that something be? Well, I know 5 times 2 gives me 10. 3 times 2 gives me 6. 6 over 10. Hey, wait a second, those are the same. Well, it did tell us we need to write greater than, less than, or equal to. So that one is equal. All right, I'm going to keep going so we can keep practicing, but if you feel like you are understanding, you are welcome to fast forward a little bit until I turn the page to the next one. So we're still going to do these 3 right here, just in case you feel like you need some more help. Because I know I talk kind of fast, but I do know that this is a video, so you can rewind if you're getting confused. All right, in a problem like this, we can't necessarily keep either of these denominators because if I tried to keep 6 and ask myself, what is 2/5 equal to, something over 6? It's not really going to work out for me because see, watch while I try it. I ask myself, what times 5 gives me 6? Nothing that I know off the top of my head. So what we're going to do instead is multiply these two by each other. Just like we did up here, we did 5 times 12 to give ourselves a common denominator. We can do 5 times 6 to give ourselves that common denominator. 5 times 6 is 30. So both of these are going to have 30 as their denominator. Now, you might be lost here and think, well, wait a second, how do I find my numerators? Well, always just set it up like this. Set up what your original fraction was and what you want your new denominator to be. Then ask yourself, well, what did I multiply by 5 to get 30? Oh, I multiplied by 6, so I'm going to do the same to the top. So that gives me 12 over 30. Here again, 3 over 6. What did I multiply by to get 30? Oh, I multiplied by 5. So we have 15 over 30. Which of those is bigger? Definitely 15. So 15 over 30 is greater than 12 over 30. So I'm going to give myself that greater than sign. All right, what about this one? Could we keep either of these ones? Could we keep one of these denominators? Actually, yes, because watch this. 4 over 10, if I try to give this one something over 10, it's going to be a lot simpler actually than it looks, because 1 over 5 equals something over 10. Hey, it's just times 2. Times 2 gives me 2 over 10. So which of these is bigger, 4 over 10 or 2 over 10? Definitely 4 over 10. All right, last one. I could try to keep the 10 again if I wanted to. I could say 2 over 10 and something over 10. What is this blank going to be? Well, I have 3/8. That's my original fraction, and I'm trying to turn it into something over 10. Wait a second. I can't do 8 times something and get 10. So I'm going to have to use a different strategy for this one. Let's use the same strategy that we did for this one and this one. For this one, we did 5 times 12. For this one, we did 5 times 6. So let's do 10 times 8. 10 times 8 is 80, so these are both going to have 80 on the bottom. 2 over 10, this fraction right here, I need it to equal something over 80. All right, well, I can just ask myself, what times 10 gives me 80? Oh yeah, it's 8. So then I have to do the same to the top, and I get 16 over 80. Then for this one, I'm going to take my original fraction, which is 3/8, and I'm going to say, how do I make it equal something over 80? Well, I multiplied by 10. I multiply by 10 and get 30. So this one was 16 over 80, and this one's 30 over 80. So I know that 30 is greater than 16, so 3/8 is greater than 2/10. All right. I am actually going to stop us there because this video is getting a little bit long. I just want to let you guys know that this is a little more challenging. So if you are feeling like it's a little confusing, I understand, and that is an okay feeling to feel. But before you comment on something on Google Classroom and say, Miss Vanderstel, I don't understand, please watch the video again, slow it down, pause it where you need to, ask a parent for help if they're available, and then please either call me, email me, or chat with me, because then I can explain it to you. All right, let's look at the homework. For the homework, you are going to be using a fraction strip here and a number line here. You've done this before, so it shouldn't be too challenging. You're just trying to figure out which is bigger, 7/12 or 2/3. So you'll color in 7/12, color in 2/3, and it should be apparent to you. Same thing here, 5/6 and 2/3. Which one is bigger? Then down here, you're not going to have these fraction strips or the number lines anymore. You're going to have to make these have common denominators. Remember, for two fractions to have common denominators, that means they need to have the same denominator. So I'll give you a hint. For one like this, you're going to multiply 6 and 5 by each other and try to figure out some equivalent fractions that are over 30. So 1/6 equals something over 30, and 3/5 equals something over 30. And then you're going to have to just see which of those is bigger. Then for this one, you could do 8 times 4. You totally could, and that would actually work if you used the same strategy like you did over here and made them both something over 32. However, you could also just keep it as the denominator 8. This one is 7/8, and 3/4 can also be put into something over 8. So 3/4 equals what over 8? Something over 8. All right, that's all the help I'm going to give you there. Again, you can call me, you can Skype me, whatever you need to do to get help from me. I'm happy, happy, happy to help you. All right, you're going to be happy about this. You get to skip these two because you don't have your blue chart to help you solve those. Problems like this one, you're just filling in the blank, naming the fraction that will complete each question. So 1/4 plus what gives you 4/4. Same here, 2/8 plus what gives you 8/8. Then this is review of what we've learned before. You're coming up with some number that these can both be divided by. I'll do this first one with you. I know that 12 can be divided by 3 and 4, and then 15 can be divided by 3 and 5. So I think I'm going to do 3 for both of them. 12 divided by 3 and 15 divided by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So 12/15 is the same thing as 4/5. You're going to do that for those as well. And you get to skip the stretch your thinking. All right, please let me know how I can help you. I miss you guys.